museums, what they are, and what's going on behind the scenes. In this episode, we delve into the critical role that preservation and conservation play in safeguarding our cultural heritage. From ancient artifacts to delicate paintings, museums serve as time capsules, preserving the stories of our ancestors. But how do curators and conservators ensure that these precious objects withstand the test of time? Join us as we unravel the secrets behind maintaining and exhibits, protecting fragile artifacts, and balancing historical authenticity with modern-day care.
Well, thanks for making us look bad with that wonderful intro.
Wow. That was awesome. Oh, goodness.
We're
Just have staging this here. We're going to have to do a little extra research there.
Yeah, we're going to have to up our intro games from now on. Thanks for setting the bar high.
Tears.
Let's just jump right into it. So let's just quickly talk about preservation. So, what is preservation for those who don't know?
Preservation is a non-invasive preventive measures to minimize deterioration and prevent future damage to artifacts and all the stuff we have in museums.
Yeah, I had that. Historic preservation is an important way for us to transmit our understanding of the past and future generations. So preservation, part of it is definitely very much of we talk about climate control in the museum, kind of. And we talk about, we have a lot of our wedding dresses. We keep them in a glass case to make sure that the oil on our hands doesn't get on them when we're looking at them. But also, there's, kind of more of the intangible preservation, too. Can you touch up on that a little bit, Brooklyn?
So, within our museum, we have a lot of, history books and stories. Mainly those stories that are being told by people that lived in that time. So we have a gentleman that comes in, and he is a local historian of Whitewood, and we typically record him having those conversations of the history of Whitewood, essentially to keep those stories alive. And Catherine is actually currently working on 100 Stories of Whitewood, which is inviting those in the community to come in and share the stories that might not actually have any tangible history that is seen in a museum, but those stories that they have of when they grew up, the things that happened, it's preserving that intangible history alive.
Thanks for the plug.
You're welcome.
I was going to say they probably didn't expect us to plug as soon as we started the podcast.
That's what happens with us. We plug.
Yeah. Definitely support our events. But yeah, no, that's perfect. Exactly. And I mean, if anyone out there in the community has a story to share, please submit your story to the museum so we can add it to the 100 Stories of Whitewood. And also, if you have something that you would like to share and writing's not your thing, come in and we'll record you so that we can keep those stories alive. Because without that, these stories are just going to disappear and we will lose that part of history if we don't share those stories. Sometimes, preservation, right, it celebrates events, people, places, ideas that we're proud of, and other times it recognizes moments in history that sometimes can be painful and uncomfortable to remember. So it's important that we don't just want to keep all the good, but also, we have to remember those times that were not as great in our history. So why do we preserve history?
We preserve history in many ways, whether it's telling stories. Historic preservation is an important way for us to transmit our understanding of the past and future generations. So, in preparation for this podcast, I was looking into preserving history, and I found a quote written by a British philosopher, Michael Oisicott. I hope I said that right. He said, "The historian adores the past, but the world today perhaps less place for those who love the past more than ever." This quote to me makes a lot of sense because today's museums all around us are now being forced to close due to lack of patrons. And if that happens, like Catherine was saying, all this preserved history goes away. It has no place to go. Mm-hmm. And in our museum, for example, we have so much history of Whitewood that I couldn't even imagine, even for us working here, but the community that comes and see all that history go away. Mm-hmm. I couldn't really imagine that. I feel like it might be kind of catastrophic a little bit.
No, yeah. It's definitely sad. I know there's a small town museum nearby us that closed down, and now really all they have is just maybe a filing cabinet to keep some of their history. I don't know the whole story, but to me that's just really sad. What do you have to add, Tay?
I think it's a definite loss to us, the communities around us, and anyone in general who would have been interested in that information, or future generations who no longer get to see it because it's gone.
Right.
Well, and like us working here, obviously we love history. So like within that quote, it's like the history adores the past. So we love the past. We love that.
Mm-hmm.
But then now today is a less place for those people because those places are closing and those places are less available.
Right.
So it kind of this quote was from years and years and years ago, but this still reigns true to this day. So you can just kind of see the evolution of it getting worse almost.
Right. So how can we best as the community preserve our history?
Well, I think keeping sentimental items and taking care of delicate items and like again with preserving, file them in cover holders, keep them in dry places. If you want to be techie with it, copy things onto a hard drive for future use. Just like keep that. And like I think the main thing is keep telling stories. Tell what you know. Because if you keep telling it, it's gonna get passed on and passed on. Right. And I think show to your local museum, come to the events, see what's there to offer. Because you might connect with one thing, million things, no things. But at least I like to say, if you come into a museum, you'll at least learn one thing.
Yeah. Especially if you let us take you on a tour. You'll learn more about bricks than you ever wanted to know.
Yeah. Or sewing machines.
Or sewing machines.
Yeah.
What do you have to add to how can we preserve?
Basically what you guys said, but more like making sure everything is protected. The stuff we already have, we gotta work on fire control, flood prevention, which I guess we're kind of on we're in a good spot for that sense. But we had a fire in here. All we got is the fire extinguishers.
I'm just imagining us grabbing fire extinguishers, trying to put out fires.
I wouldn't grab the fire extinguisher. I would grab the sewing machine, the blanket.
Yeah, Brooklyn would go with the grab and run method. Yeah. I would probably be phoning 911. Tadine would be like with the fire extinguisher. Woo!
If you think for 1 minute Tadine wouldn't go grab the sword out of the military room.
Or I would probably defend the military section first. Just saying.
Yeah.
If you think for 1 minute, she'd be like, you guys take care of the fire for a minute. I'm just going to run to the military room.
Yeah. No, I think we definitely touched on, like, a lot of these things, like the museum has to work on in preservation, but also at home when you're doing things, like, put your things of memories in, like, the plastic tubs. So that way that could prevent them from damage. And definitely, like, pass them down generations, or if the generations don't want it, bring it to the museum, because I'm sure the museum would just love to help preserve the local history. And by showing up, you are helping preserve history because you're learning, so you can share that with other people, and you're also supporting the museum by coming to the museum. So just simply showing up is a great way to help preserve history.
Just to touch on that, we actually have a little bit of techie history available. We actually have flash drives here at the museum that have how many years of the local newspaper?
The first year is 1893, then it misses just a couple of years in there, and then the last year is 2009.
Yeah. So we have flash drives here at the museum. If you're local to Whitewood and interested in that sort of thing, it's a flash drive. It's $50. You can plug it in and you can search basically anything in this database to do with Whitewood that was in the local newspaper. Are we more a collector or a minimalist?
I tend to hoard stuff of interest to me. Hence, a lot of books that I have already read enough times to have memorized completely, and a lot of random little artifacts that I in no way need, but have.
Nice. I am definitely side more on the collector side. I have a collection of jerseys from curling. I have a collection of random things that don't really make sense, like I bought this book about Timothy Eaton the other day. It's a collector's book. And did I really need that? No. Do I think it's the coolest thing? 100% ask Tay, because I didn't shut up about it for 2 days straight. What about you, Brooklyn?
I'm a little bit of both. In terms of it's something within my family, like jewelry or a book or a plate or childhood items, I have a hard time getting rid of it. It's kind of almost like a guilt thing. But I am a collector of specific things, but it's not a collection that I started. My grandpa, he has this tradition. I don't know if you ever heard of Cherished Teddies, but every year for my birthday, he would give me a new part of that Cherished Teddy collection, and I have that whole collection. And so I am a collector of that. But in terms of like knickknacks and old stuff that's common, I tend to not keep it. When I was younger, I used to be more of a collector. And then as I got older, I'm like, why do I have all this stuff? I haven't touched it in years. Like stuffed animals, I was a collector of stuffed animals. And then as I got older, I'm like, yeah, these are old from when I was a kid, but let's get rid of them. Barbies, I had probably every single Barbie known to man. And I sold it. Probably shouldn't have, because I'd probably make some good money now on those old Barbies. But no, like I think on both. Like in terms of like my adult life, I tend to use it within like a week or a month. My rule of thumb is usually
So you get a new shovel every winter because you
get
rid of it.
No, not like stuff like that. It's just like my rule of like with clothes, for example, or stuff. I'm like, if I haven't read the book in like 10 years, I'm probably not going to read it again. I'm going to donate it to the library or donate it. But I'm also, again, if it's a piece of jewelry or something like my mom's ring that I wear, I would never dream of giving that. Or my great grandma's jewelry. Those were pieces that just have been passed down to me and I've been collecting them. Yeah. Like I would never in a million years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest regret is when I was younger, my mom gave me some of like her grandma's jewelry, but I was so young and sharing is caring. Yeah. And I gave it like to my friend and I was like, oh, I'll never wear those. So she took them home and I remember the look on my mom's face when I told her that. And granted, I was like 7 or something. So the understanding of like sentiment like wasn't quite there. Like my sentiment was teddy bears and stuff like that. The understanding of jewelry being passed down and heirlooms and stuff, that just wasn't in my head yet. And that's probably like one of my biggest regrets. And I feel like that's why maybe now I side more to like the collecting, because what if? Yeah. What if always is in the back of my head.
Well, and I think that's my mentality with like, it's almost like a guilt thing with like family. It's just like, I never will part with this item because if I'm hosting family dinner, I'm going to put every piece of dessert on this dessert plate that my grandma gave me because she gave it to me. She chose to give it to me, right? And so it's just that, and I know when I serve my grandma on this dessert plate, she's going to be the most happy she's ever been because she passed that down to someone she loves. Right. So I'm like, I couldn't, So I think I am in that way, but I'm also like, do I need to keep it? Will I use this or would someone else enjoy this more? Yeah. In that sort of sense.
Do you have anything to add to this, Tay?
I don't have, like, family sentimental stuff. Just stuff that interests me, so. Just, like, license plates and the model makes off of cars that I found out in the bush and whatnot. Nice. The bush. Yeah. I actually once found an old Dodge car. Didn't know that was a thing. Just chilling out there, and I'd like to go back and see it.
Nice. We love cars in the bush. All right. Let's move forward to what is conservation. I went with a literal definition. So conservation is the study of the loss of an Earth's biological diversity and the ways that loss it can be prevented. Conservation thus seeks to protect life's variety at all levels of biological organization.
See, mine was more just in context of the museum, which actually took a while to get. Just context of the museum, not the Earth. But for me, and the definition I found, conservation involves direct hands-on intervention to stabilize and restore objects.
And for all of those at home listening, like me, and want the dumbed-down, watered-down version of those, it's pretty much restoration and trying to delay deterioration. So the best way that I can think of it is if there's a painting that you have and part of it is damaged, there are actually professionals out there that work to restore those paintings back to its original beauty and original self. And so they will like paint exactly or
Mm.
as much as they can to the exact version of what it was before it was damaged, and like other things like trying to delay the deterioration. Can't think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah.
Conservation, like you said, is like removing grime and
Yeah.
replacing missing pieces. Like, have you ever seen paintings after they've been cleaned?
No.
Entirely different. Some of
Mm.
them, like some of them will be dark and like moody, and once you clean it and restore it, it's like bright
That's cool.
and not.
Yeah. I think that, do you have anything else really to add?
Not really. Or I guess we could discover what's worth conserving or preserving.
Yeah, definitely. That's really a big question. Yeah.
What is worth conserving or preserving? So, historical artifacts, like objects that provide insight into our past, art and sculptures, not just like random stuff, although that's cool to keep in your own home, but like masterpieces by renowned artists, sculptures and paintings that reflect cultural and artistic achievements. Architectural heritage, so like historic monuments and structures that represent architectural styles and craftsmanship. Like we have Victorians like style. You have a lot of different architectural styles and whatnot. Rare fossils, mineral and botanical specimens that contribute to scientific knowledge and could help in the future. Like a lot of that stuff is still used today to look back and sometimes correct what we thought of the past.
Yeah, I definitely think some things are more like notably obvious of whether it should be preserved and conserved or whether it shouldn't be. Like, for example, we have an old typewriter that used to sit in the town office basement. It got water damage. There's like a whole story to it. Someone took it home and cleaned it in their bathtub, I believe. But that is something that it seems obvious to me. Yeah, we gotta preserve that. We gotta do. I mean, they did some conservation. They went home and they cleaned it. But there's other things like we got a donation the other day from the 2005, the Centennial of Saskatchewan. There was this big thing. I don't remember it. I was pretty young, but they had like this big celebration in town here, and it was like a big deal. And everyone, they came and they got welcome packets, and they donated this welcome packet. And we were looking at it the other day, and like inside is the itinerary for like the weekend and the event, and I was sitting there and I was like, this is so cool. Like, we got to keep this, we got to preserve it. But I was like, how many people after the Centennial went home and threw it out because what do they need it for? And I mean, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing. But now that we have it, now that it's been what, almost 20 years after, like now we're like, yeah, why didn't some of us keep that? Like that's a part of history, you know? So there's some things that I feel like, yeah, they seem fairly obvious. But like back then when typewriters were the norm, I bet you they weren't all thinking, oh, we better keep our typewriters because pretty soon they're going to have smart TVs where they just talk into the remote and they can pull up anything.
Well, and like even in the sense of like when my grandparents came in the other day and they walked through this whole museum and everything that they looked at, they're like, that's like what I grew up with. That's like I didn't even think to keep that. I think my grandpa said that like 17 times. I didn't even think to keep that.
Right.
And like they are very much collectors. And so, but like even the things are like, we had that. We didn't even think that would take part in a museum, but it is because that was a piece of history.
Yeah.
And like even Tay was with us when they were walking around. She was like, I'm just absorbing all of this because the stuff that they remember, and like even like typically like in the egg building, my grandpa's like, oh, we grew up with that. We grew up with that. We had that on the farm. And even the things that I'm like, we had that. He's like, yep. Like, so the things that I remember and he remembers, it was just like, you wouldn't think would be in a museum.
Yeah.
But because that they are here, they sparked memory. Like, I didn't even remember that I had that. Like, there was a book that my grandpa read when he was a kid. He's like, I used to read that all the time when I was a kid. Yeah. If that wouldn't have been in this museum, that wouldn't have, that realization wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw this question out here. What would you guys say to the people at home listening? What would you say would be questions that they could ask themselves to identify whether something is worth keeping or not?
I think ask yourself, does this have a story? Does this have sentimental meaning? Like, I think when you're looking at an object, like, when I look here, I try to think, who would have owned this? Like, what is its story?
Mhm.
And I think if you can think of the story or know the story, I think it's worth keeping or taking to a museum, even if you yourself don't want to keep it.
Right.
Just think beyond the, oh, I don't use it, get rid of it.
Right. Yeah. What would you say, Tay?
Pretty much along those lines. I would just say maybe if like you don't want to keep a lot of stuff, you don't have to keep physical copies of everything. You can take pictures of it and put it on a hard drive.
Yeah.
It's a very minimalistic way to keep stuff
Right.
in a small little thing
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And then we can access it and it's there for future generations. Or maybe ask yourself, like, would it be of interest 20 years down the road, 100 years down the road?
Yeah.
Did I attend an event that could be considered a historical event?
Right. That was exactly what I was gonna say. Is I was gonna say think 20 years down the line, which is really hard because I remember when we were young, we were all like, "There's gonna be flying cars,"
Oh my gosh.
and and I'm just like, well, we're not there yet, and will we ever be there? Well, okay.
Technically, apparently there are.
Right, but like we thought everyone would be.
Oh
driving
yeah,
them.
100%.
Yeah.
Like Back to the Future.
Back to the Future vibes.
I have never
Back to
thought
the
that in my
Future
life.
messed
Really?
me up because I was like, I'm gonna be in this generation. When I was a kid and watching that, I'm like, I'm so excited to grow up and I'm gonna be flying cars and doors that just open. Well, technically we do have doors that open by themselves now, but like, that's so cool. Like, and Marty McFly lied to me. Let's just say.
This is a difference in childhoods. Like, I grew up watching westerns, kind of roughhousing with neighbors, siblings, and cousins and whatnot. Just ranching and whatnot. And I was more comparing the past to what we have now, rather than comparing what we have now to what it could be in the future.
Girl, we grew up with the Backyardigans. Like,
I was just
Okay, I didn't have TV as a kid and still
or
don't.
Wonder Pets.
Yes.
Miss Spider. Tupi and Binu.
Tupi and Binu, yeah.
See, like, me and Catherine's generation and Tadine's generation, like
I never had TV, still don't. So,
girl, you missed.
No,
lots
I
of life
didn't.
lessons.
I have stacks and stacks of movies, historical documents, everything I could possibly need, and I don't need to watch the brain rot.
Well, ouch, first of all, for the Backyardigans. But anyways, I'm offended on their behalf. But that's actually quite interesting because what I might preserve, you might say, or even any one of you might say, why would you keep that, Catherine? And I don't know why you keep the dragonflies. Gotta be honest with you.
That was one dragonfly,
I ask
and it was
myself
cool.
that every day, and I'm not even gonna lie. That day, I had a nightmare that I was at Tadine's house, and there was just like dead dragonflies hanging from the ceiling, and just all the bugs that she says she brings home.
I don't have bugs. I have one dragonfly. Perfectly, that was not broken or anything. And I was like, this is cool. I'm going to show it to my little brother. And it can sit on like a wall or container. I mean, have you seen our science lab? We got dead hummingbird chilling in a little thing.
Okay,
we got sharks in jars.
That's a science lab at school.
Yeah, but I like science, so why wouldn't I have similar stuff?
But this is exactly my point. That is so cool to you, and I love that for you. For me, not in my life would I ever keep that. But that's exactly what I'm saying of like, what is important to you is different to me. But when we add all of those collections together, we tell such a bigger story. And that's what's really cool about it.
My question, 10 years, how are we going to tag that dragonfly?
Okay, have you ever... Some museums do have, bug collections.
She is going to bring, in 10 years, she's going to be like, here's a dragonfly from 2024.
I was thinking of stuff, but they got, cool caps that are, rubber that's, rotted inside, but they're old.
Oh.
They were, left here before we moved here.
Right.
Way back.
Yeah. Definitely, when you're looking at it,
yeah,
think about the different things, too, and would someone think this is cool or not? And if you don't know, donate it to the museum, and then they'll decide.
You know what I really wish I would have kept? All my Webkins. Because I think, even now, because they're not sold anymore, I think in, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like we have the old dolls. I think that would be really cool because that was such a big thing.
That was a big thing.
Okay, that's for another podcast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're gonna talk
Do you know who
toys-
Hannah Montana is? Oh my
No.
goodness.
I mean, isn't it like
People-
Miley Cyrus?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
like kids don't know who that is anymore, and that's what we grew up with. Oh no, well,
Or Sunny with a Chance.
Sunny with a Chance. Yes,
That one was a
Yes.
bop.
To like stuff I played with as a kid is like my siblings are 5, 7, 13 years younger than me, depending on the one you want to go with.
Yeah.
And their toys are so different now
Mhm.
compared
Oh,
to
yeah.
the farm toys I used to play with. Like the same like structure, not really because they're weaker now. They're flimsy-ish, but like they're different. Their designs are different. The materials used are different.
I want there to be a Furby in this museum. Or a Tamagotchi.
Those things are traumatizing to look at.
The Furbies are terrifying.
They're
But, like,
creepy.
Alrighty, so what do you guys think the word of the day should be?
I think on the topic of preserving and conservation, I believe it should be collection.
I like it. Alrighty, well, stay tuned for next week's podcast. It'll be a good one, I think. So yeah. Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.